Hello friends and welcome to lesson 1 of unit 4, which is Introduction to Indian Economy. In this particular unit 4, we are going to have 7 lessons starting with unemployment and government policies, and then we'll talk about policy implications and employment trends. In lesson 3, we'll discuss development strategies and agriculture. Lesson 4 will be dedicated to Indian foreign trade. Lesson 5, the various sectors like energy, transport, education, and health of India will be discussed. Lesson 6 will be on gender issues and social inclusion, and Lesson 7 would be on infrastructure development policies. So let us start with Lesson 1, unemployment and government policies. The learning outcomes would be unemployment and unemployability. We'll be looking at national employment policy, then the policies to reduce the unemployment, and the last one would be cost of unemployment. Let us start with unemployment, as unemployment plays a big role in the economy of any country. What is unemployment? Unemployment is the state where a person is available and is willing to work, but he or she remains unhired. That means a person who is not gainfully employed in any productive activity to contribute towards the GDP of the country is unemployed. Now, when we talk about nature of unemployment in India, it is very structured. Like you have unemployment in urban areas and unemployment in the rural areas. When we talk about the urban unemployment, we can divide that into two categories. One is the industrial unemployment and the educated unemployment. Now, because of the migration from rural to urban areas, it is very hard for the industrial sector to provide the employment to all the people coming to the cities. Similarly, there are a lot of people, especially from the middle class, who are into education. So the education level is increasing. As a result, there is a pressure on the formal sector to provide employment to the educated youth. So when we talk about the rural unemployment, so it is number one is the seasonal unemployment. If you talk of agriculture, because 40 to 45% of the workforce is in agriculture. Now, agriculture is a seasonal employment, so it cannot provide throughout the year the full employment. Similarly, if we talk of the sugar mills or the cotton mills, jute mills, textile industry, it is all seasonal because when the sugar cane is there, only then the sugar mills employ more and more people. So it is very seasonal in nature. If I talk of the crops, so in agriculture, it's not throughout the year. The other part of this is disguised unemployment. It appears that you have the full-time employment, but generally it is not. If we talk of agriculture, because you are not working full-time for agriculture. So the productivity, the contribution to gross domestic product is not there. So this is what when we talk about the nature of unemployment in India. So let us have a look at who are the India's unemployed. So there are different categories, and as per the census 2011, unemployment rate is high among the better qualified. If you look at these numbers here, so illiterate, around 32 million people seek job. and the unemployment rate is 7.23. So if I go to the fourth category, that is metric secondary but below graduate, around 27 million, unemployment rate is around 14.55. If you go to technical diploma or certificate, it is around 1 million 16.90. Graduates 14.42. Technical degree or diploma equal to degree or postgraduate degree 2 million people, 15.73. So the unemployment rate is very high for the more qualified people. That's another when we talk about the educated unemployment. The question is, which is a bigger problem? Is it unemployment or unemployability? Let us understand unemployability. Now, we talked in the last slide about the educated youth and they are unemployed. More appropriate would be they are unemployable. That is a bigger problem than the unemployment. Today, if you look at around 50 lakh students graduate every year in India. And out of these 50 lakh students, not all are employed or are fit to be employed. So the fact is 50%, more than 50% of these graduates will lack the basic employability skills. What are the reasons for unemployment, especially in the educated youth? Is the technological changes, which are very fast now, lack of skill-based education, syllabus not updated, and lack of communication skills. These are the four major reasons as per the census. Now, if we look at 2018 distribution by the categories, so the workforce that we have, around 30.6% is self-employed agriculture, and casual agriculture is 10.7. So almost around 41 to 42% of the workforce is into agriculture. Then self-employed non-agriculture is 20.8, regular is 24.2, and then casual non-agriculture is 13.7. And in agriculture we saw it is seasonal and it is disguised, that means it is not a full-time employment. On the other side, because we talked about unemployability, so there are huge gaps in terms of skills required and people are not available. So this is a projection. The expected shortfall by 2022, for example, in infrastructure development, 103 million people required. Auto and auto components, 35 million. Building and construction, 33 million. Textile and clothing, 26.2. Transport and logistics, 17.7. Retail, 17.3. Real estate, 14 million. Healthcare, 12.7 million. Food processing, 9.3 million. Education and skill development services, 5.8 million. This is as per NSTC, National Skill Development Corporation. India had come out with a national employment policy which we keep on revising. So the basic purpose of this policy is to analyze and improve the labor market data, firstly, to create a synergy between different sectors of the economy to reduce the skill gaps and increase the employability. Also to educate and develop the skills which are required as per what we saw in NSTC. Also improving women's participation in the economy and look at the employment and income in agriculture because still it's agri-based. Also look at micro and small enterprises and entrepreneurship development so that more people, rather than seeking jobs, start giving jobs to others. Now, with the pandemic coming, recently the National Education Policy has a new focus, and they have started giving incentives for firms who are creating formal employment. So that will be good for the social security to the workers. And at present, 90% of the workforce is working in the unorganized sector. We'll look at what is organized, what is unorganized sector. This focus is needed because of COVID-19, also because of the migrant workers who have gone back to home states, and some of them are coming back. And there are a lot of schemes which government has put, so there is a lot of pressure on those agriculture, and one is what we call as National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. So government wants to create employable and skilled workforce as a result of this. Now, what are the different policies under NEP which government has put in to reduce unemployment? Many policies like Narega I talked about, where you are given regular employment for a certain period of time, and government ensures that you get that. And basically that is for the rural youth. Then Sampoorn Gram Rozgar Yojana, Swan Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana, Prime Minister Employment Generation Program. So there are many programs which are focusing on employment and also to reduce poverty, because they are also linked. Now when we talk about the policies, so generally all the policies which are framed, they have two sides to it. One is the supply side, one is the demand side. In order to reduce unemployment on the supply side, what you need to do is so that there is no migration and people have the skills which are required in those particular areas. So we need to focus on education and training. We need to give some geographical subsidies to help the firms and the workers move to the required places where their skills are required. Remove labor market regulations. So we are trying to make the laws flexible in terms of the labor laws. Then employment subsidies to encourage firms to provide more employment to the people. And also looking at the minimum wage and the trade unions, how we can reduce their intervention and remove that barrier of the minimum wage. On the demand side, we talk about the monetary policy, and we discussed that by cutting the interest rate, we can increase the aggregate demand. Similarly, under the fiscal policy, we can cut more taxes so that again there is higher spending, and as a result we create aggregate demand. Also to depreciate the exchange rate so that we can export more. So you can look at the various schemes, and also the government recently, not recently but in the last term, have come out with so many platforms and organizations and departments which are working towards not only skill training but also to provide employment by reskilling and also Made in India campaign. So these are all those departments, and National Skills Network is another one where you can look at different schemes and the success stories, and also to become an entrepreneur. Similarly, National Skill Development corporation is some organization which is trying to provide the skills at least cost. Let's look at cost of unemployment. So there are economic cost. So the biggest is the cost to the country, but let us look at the personal cost. So the person who is unemployed has loss of income, so more dependency on the government and on the subsidies and on the unemployment allowances. Over a period of time, the unemployed youth lose the working skills and then they go into depression and illness. So as a result, they put strain on other family members and also on the healthcare system of the country. If we look at the country as a whole, the economy as a whole, the cost of unemployment is loss of income, less tax revenue, higher government borrowing to support those for giving the subsidies, incentives, and unemployment allowances, then loss of human capital, then inefficient use of resources. As a result, the social problems, the crimes, they go up. Simply put, the economic cost of unemployment as it is going up is reduced output, as a result reduced GDP. So lower GDP can cause lower living standards and then comes your economic recession. Let us also look at organized and unorganized sector. So what are these? Organized sector is the sector where the employment terms are fixed and employees have assured work. So there is sort of a security for these employees. Unorganized sector comprises of small scale units and are not registered with the government. So if we look at the total employment in India as per 2009-10 figures, so in the organized sector, only 6% of the people are working, 28 million. In the unorganized sector, 94%, which is the irony of this country. So out of that 94%, so you have around 34% working in the manufacturing and service sector. In agriculture, it is around 56%, and then 10% in the construction sector. So more so in the agriculture. The other thing we need to look at is, as per 2016 figures, so the annual unemployment survey when it was conducted, what came out was 77% of the households in India, they are not on regular wage, 77%. And 5% is the level of unemployment in 2016, which was not very high, which is a good sign. 8.7 is the unemployment level of women and 4.3 for men. So let me summarize the things. We talked about unemployment and unemployability. We talked about the national employability policy of India. We discussed how to tackle unemployment, how to reduce it, how on the supply side and how on the demand side. What are the different policies which government has come out with? And then we talked about the cost of unemployment. There is a small quiz for you. Question number 1 is appearing on your screen. What is NREGA? Unemployment level of women is more than men in India, as per the last consensus. Is it true or false? What is NSTC? So these are the 3 questions for you. And if you have written your answers, you can check. NREGA is National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, which came in 2015 under the Congress rule under Dr. Manmohan Singh's prime ministership. Unemployment level of women is more than men in India. True or false? It is true. What is NSDC? NSDC is National Skill Development Corporation. If you have any questions, feel free to write to me. For further reading, you can go to this article, which is worth reading. So that is all from my side. Thank you very much. Bye for now. Shabba khair.